Brian Johnson is the man taking on aging, and he's going to be making a fortune doing. Brian Johnson is the man taking on aging, and he's going to make a fortune doing it right in front of us. In the digital age where content is king, Brian Johnson, the former founder of the payments company Braintree, has strategically utilized YouTube and different forms of PR to publicly start a pretty unique journey in an emerging niche. And his goal is to help people to accomplish age reversal through his company Blueprint. Now, this video aims to dive deeper into the mechanics of how Brian has produced content, not only to educate, but also to inspire, to help be... Now, this video aims to dive deeper into the mechanics of how Brian has produced content, not only to inspire, but also to educate and to begin introducing products that align with the ethos of Blueprint. So we'll dissect this business model and pull out some key takeaways that really any business owner can apply to their own businesses. So let's start with a little bit of background. After selling Braintree to eBay in 2012 for $800 million, Brian Johnson pivoted his focus towards health, specifically exploring the subject of reversing your biological age. So Blueprint, which came from Brian's interest in longevity and vitality, has really become a beacon for hope for those seeking to decelerate the aging process, offering a routine that has been publicly detailed on his website for free and through a series of YouTube videos that have now amassed a pretty substantial following of over 500,000 subscribers within just 1 year. So Brian has leveraged his platforms to not only very publicly share his age reversal protocol, but also to strategically position his brand within the e-commerce space, starting with the sale of products like olive oil. And this is where we find our first takeaway, which is leading with value. So Brian's approach to providing free, valuable content as kind of a precursor to introducing related products and services, or really anything that he's selling, demonstrates the power of content marketing in the modern digital landscape. All of the details related to Brian's diet and lifestyle habits are listed for free, as I mentioned, on his website. And he even posted a free PDF listing the ingredients to his meals that anyone can download. And this isn't really a new concept. It's actually a pretty old concept in online marketing, packaged in a modern way. And this isn't really a new concept. It's actually an old concept, but it's just packaged in a modern way that's suitable for this specific niche. I mean, you'll hear Gary Vaynerchuk talk about jab, jab, right cross. You'll hear Ramit Sethi from I Will Teach You to Be Rich talk about how he gives away, I think, over 90% of his content for free to communicate the idea that if his free content is this good, then how good must the paid stuff be? Or that's what his customers are ultimately asking. And this concept can be adapted and implemented in almost any, and this concept can be adapted and implemented in almost any business model. So I recommend using this concept to not just replicate the same type of content that Brian Johnson has been putting out, but think about what kind of value you can provide that will allow you to stand out, to build trust and ongoing engagement with your audience. And two ways to do that are by teaching or by demonstrating. And Brian Johnson is leading this niche or this. And Brian Johnson's strategy has been by demonstrating. And this is point 2, which is demonstrating rather than telling or teaching. So Brian could have launched his brand by talking about the benefits of the Blueprint way of living and supported it. So Brian could have launched his brand by talking about the benefits of the blueprint way of living and supported it with scientific papers to back up his claim and tell people that they should therefore do the same thing and live in the same way. But especially for carving out new niches or ones like health, where it can be difficult really to determine the difference between woo-woo health guru from new approaches in modern medicine that can actually improve your health, I think demonstrating and testing things on yourself, in this case, in Brian's case, demonstrating and testing things on himself that he's backing by legitimate research is one way that he's using to lower the audience's defensiveness and skepticism and increase the openness to his content while also building trust. Now, of course, the evidence-backed portion of this is very important too, especially in health, because just because something works for you doesn't mean that it will therefore be ideal for an entire population. So if demonstrating and then selling something, it helps to build trust by being transparent about the fact that this thing worked for you, that it's worked for others like your audience, and because of that, there's a good chance that it will also work for that person that is considering buying your product. But it's ultimately on the audience to make that decision based on everything presented. So ultimately putting the audience in the driver's seat in their decision making and being committed yourself to putting out content and products that are well researched will help to build a high level of trust and success at assuming that it's something that they actually want to buy. And aside from testing things on yourself to build trust, an arguably more powerful way to do this is when other people share their experiences with your business. And that leads to the third point, which is shareability. So number 3, shareability. You'll notice an influx. Now, you may yourself have noticed an influx of YouTube videos with the topic about, like, I've tried Brian Johnson's $2 million per year plan for $20 or something really cheap or something like that. And these videos are popular because people want to know how to access a $2 million per year level of healthcare at a price that they can actually afford and implement. I'm going to redo that. So you might have noticed an influx of YouTube videos with the topic, I tried Brian Johnson's $2 million per year plan for, I don't know, $20 or something really cheap, something like that. And these videos are popular because people want to know how to access a $2 million per year level of self-care, especially something like age reversal, at a price that they can actually afford and implement for themselves. But through doing this, another side effect, if you will, or maybe that's the primary, but through doing this, maybe a side effect, if you will, is that these people are spreading awareness of Brian Johnson's story and his business. So his content that demonstrates something interesting and having a compelling story behind it makes it shareable, but then putting this in So his content that demonstrates something interesting and having a compelling story behind it is what makes it shareable. Or putting this in more boring online business terms, if you can create content that by other people sharing it will help them drive traffic to their channels, to their business, this will make you more likely to be shared. So with these factors in place, the last part of the equation in Brian Johnson's success, at least that I'll talk about today, in selling things, So with these factors in place, the last part of the equation in Brian Johnson's success, at least the points that I'll talk about in this video, is price positioning. So number 4 is strategic price positioning. A big reason why the story made so much noise in PR articles and YouTube videos, or at least a big part of that, aside from age reversal being a huge So a big reason why this story made so much noise in PR articles and YouTube videos, aside from, of course, age reversal being a huge claim in itself, is the $2 million per year part of it. But another part of why this has been such an intelligent point to highlight is that everything else that he will sell to his audience moving forward will seem much less expensive in comparison. Even if it's more expensive than other comparable products, the first product that he's selling demonstrates this, which is So he's selling 2 bottles of olive oil for $100. Now, compared to spending $2 million, that's a steal. But for someone who hasn't heard the story, hasn't followed along in the journey, and doesn't know the background behind it, and just sees a bottle of olive oil for $50 when they could buy something for less than $20 at the grocery store, this is an example about how you can sidestep competition and price comparison by creating a different price for the audience to anchor to, but also by placing that product in a different category. In this case, people are buying the olive oil specifically not for putting it on their pasta, but they're doing this for something that people value much more than $100, or that some even consider priceless, which is maintaining or even restoring youth. Again, this is not a new concept in marketing. It's just packaged differently and unique to this specific niche. I'm sure you've seen landing pages selling you a course or a product, and somewhere in there it told you that this costs less than a few cups of coffee per month or something like that. So again, you do not need to copy this exact pricing strategy and tell people the alternatives to your product could be in some way. So again, you don't need to copy this exact pricing strategy and tell people the alternatives to your product could in some way cost them $2 million per year. But look at if the alternatives to your product actually do cost a lot more in some way, if you can anchor people's... But look at if the alternatives in your niche to your product do actually cost a lot more, or if you can anchor people's, sorry. So again, you don't need to copy this exact pricing strategy and tell people that the alternatives to your product could in some way cost them $2 million a year. But if you look at the alternatives to your product in your niche, do they cost a lot more, or do you have an opportunity to anchor people's perception of price to more expensive alternatives? And with all of these strategies, the point is to not communicate how to manipulate And with all of these strategies that we're talking about here, the point is to not communicate. And with all of these strategies here, the point is to not talk about how to manipulate your audience. I think maintaining trust and integrity with your business while still applying these concepts is not only possible, but should be the way that you build your business. Not only from a moral standpoint. Okay, redoing that. And with all of these strategies that we're talking about, the point here is not to And with all these strategies that we're talking about here, the point is to not manipulate your audience. I think maintaining trust and integrity with your business while applying these concepts is not only possible, but should be the way that you build your business, not only from a moral standpoint, but it can also help you stand out amongst a sea of shady, crappy businesses. And that is the type of business that's likely going to grow larger, last long term, and if you ever want to sell your business. Now, if you found this advice valuable and you're interested in more insights similar to this, then I highly recommend signing up for our free email newsletter called This Week in M&A, which explores the happenings of online business week to week. And I'll leave a link in the show notes below for that. And if you are interested in buying a business to jumpstart your journey on this, but you don't have the cash up front or all the cash up front, then click on this video where I'll talk about how you can still acquire a business through financing using much less of your own cash up front. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching.